Congratulations on your recent championship.
Thank you so much.
Any opponents you're eyeballing next?
Just the ones who have the belts.
I heard that.
Has the belts.
Congratulations. Timothy
you.
Bradley said he's very excited you could potentially be brother and sister champions out of the Valley.
Well, for the history books, that'd be awesome.
Right?
That'd be pretty cool.
Tomorrow, this Saturday.
Very excited. I'm very excited. You know, this is a big opportunity for me. 2 belts on the line. It's going to be big.
Timothy Bradley was saying how excited he was that you guys potentially could be a brother and sister championship team representing the Desert Valley. Is it likely? How excited are you about that, champ?
Very likely, very likely. You know, this is a dream come true. My sister won her title 6 months ago. I'm going to win it now. My father's going to be crowned trainer of the year. This is big for the Valley. You know, the Valley's full of champions. We're just adding to it.
Yeah, jumping into this fight at the last minute, it seems like a blessing. More difficult challenge for Tim, who obviously was not preparing to fight somebody of your stature.
Yeah, it's very different for him, but for us, we were training for an orthodox fighter, a come-forward fighter, a knockout artist. So, you know, Tszyu checks all those things. We're ready for whatever he brings on Saturday night.
You're ready? You're a tall southpaw. Can we expect to see maybe you fighting on the outside?
Of course, of course. I got to use my gifts. Depends how I'm going to use them, of course. You might not see it the whole fight, but I definitely am going to add them to my game.
Thanks for talking to us. Appreciate it. Best of luck this weekend.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
It's time for the main event. It's the Tszyu Show.
¿Qué onda, vatos locos? It's your boy Dave in the 702 coming at you for that Monday night recap known as the Tszyu Shine. Joining me all the way from the city of brotherly love, Philly, Irish, Drew Evo. ¿Qué pasa, homie?
What's up, Dave?
Man, it's kind of late. I'm sorry, guys. It's 8 o'clock. It's 11 p.m. on the East Coast, Drew. I need to get this show started earlier. Where is everybody? Who else is doing a show right now? Where is all the family? If you're coming into the show, don't be bashful, guys. The phone line is open tonight, 702-710-3627. It had to be one of the best weekends in boxing so far this year, Drew, in 2024. It had to probably have produced a fight of the year contender. It's a weekend where Mexicans and Mexican Americans, well, it was almost a clean sweep, Drew. We've got, we've got an undisputed world champion out of East LA. Shout out to Sinisa Estrada. We have Oscar Valdez reviving his career. We have Pitbull Cruz from Mexico City, now the newest 140-pound WBA champion. We have Zurdo Ramirez, the first Mexican to go from 168 pounds to cruiserweight champion. And let's not forget, guys, I mean, you probably don't know it, but Fundora, like the Mexican monster David Benavidez, is half Mexican, Drew. He's very proud to be half Mexican, of his half Mexican roots. A clean sweep, an incredible weekend that all of a sudden it went from like for weeks we had been down on this PBC card like it's a shit card. We're upset about it being a pay-per-view special. Nobody wanted to pay for it. And then out of nowhere, Keith Thurman busts his biceps. The card gets rearranged. I ran into Brian Mendoza, 154-pound contender, 2 weeks ago at the Cosmopolitan, days before he gets announced to be on the card to take on Bohacek. Serhii Bohacek, a guy that was on the card to take on Fundora, Brian Mendoza jumps in to fight that guy. And Fundora, coming off a knockout, ends up on the main event. And man, I just feel so fortunate, Drew, that I had a chance to speak to Fundora, one of the nicest boxers I've met this year in Las Vegas, and his sister. You guys saw it here. Make sure you guys drop me a comment, guys. I take the time out to go down there to try to bring exciting content, to try to legitimize our channel, Drew. And shout out to everybody joining us. SB, thank you so much for joining us. First comment up in the chat, Drew. It was definitely exciting, Drew. Shout out to In the Ring with Christine Lopez, Olympic boxing coach, and our boy D Styles Boxing. We're getting in that work, Drew. It was something. I got to tell you, being at that press conference, the weigh-in and all that, I did not go to the fight. I chose to stay home and watch it on the comfort of my big, massive ass 85-inch TV. It was storming. It was pouring. Shout out to Tszyu's teams, who was very generous enough to gift D-Style a fantastic seat. But I was not going to go impose myself and be like, what about me? Can I get a free ticket too? Was not going to be that guy. I was not going to be that guy, Drew, to be like, give me a free ticket too. No, I could pay for it. I could absolutely pay for it. I chose not to. I chose to stay home and watch it. Like I said, with my wife on the 85-inch TV. It was a windy and cold Saturday night in Las Vegas, Drew. One that was full of surprises. But even before then, we had the week start off with an incredible fight on Pro Box. Nicholas Walters, almost 40 years old, comes back and defeats a much younger fighter. That set the tone off Pro Box. And then Friday, Drew, I got to ask you, because Friday in Arizona, where our friend Chicano Prophet lives, that was the undisputed, let's start with that, the undisputed women's minimum weight championship. Cenisa Estrada East LA Chicana versus Yocaste Valley. People very excited about this. Probably one of the best women's fight, most highly anticipated women's fight of the year, 100%. And I was at the damn Palms when they set this fight up, when they started to bring this fight up, Drew, to try to materialize this fight. That's actually the, let me get some, there you go. There's a picture for Drew there. Drew, how excited were you to see these two people fight? And I got to ask you, because it seemed a little bit biased from ESPN, Drew. Cenisa Estrada was boxing quite beautifully, looking like a women's Lomachenko almost. But Vale was coming on strong in the late. And this is a fight that actually, I was upset. 2-minute rounds, 20 minutes. I'm like, can I get more? I need to see more. There's too many belts. This time I felt like I needed more. Drew disappeared on me. Drew, you there? All right, guys, as Drew gets his Skype. I haven't even let him talk. He's probably like, Sin City Syndicate. Shout out to Sin City. He says, who won? Actually, well, it was Cenisa Estrada on Friday night. That was her night. She becomes undisputed women's champion in the minimum weight class. A very, very close fight, guys. I think you could watch it back. Some people could say maybe it could have been a draw. I had a slight edge for Cenisa Estrada, who boxed quite beautifully, but some hard shots were landing for the Costa Rican fighter, Yocaste Valley. So I'm curious what you guys think, anybody who may have seen that fight. Now Cenisa Estrada becomes the first Chicana, Mexican-American woman out of East LA to become undisputed world champion. Now has all 4 titles. Incredible. And this brings me back to a night that I talked about here on my show. We went to the Palms Casino. Cenisa had bad blood with Golden Boy, with Oscar De La Hoya, and left the Top Rank. And Yocaste Valley, the fighter that remained on the Golden Boy. This is where it all happened at the Palms, when they discussed making this big fight a reality, Drew. And it finally happened. Cenisa Estrada is now undisputed minimum weight champion. Your thoughts on her performance? Am I tripping? I mean, she moves quite beautiful in the ring. She can box from both sides. She gives you angles. She gives you different looks. How'd you feel about that scorecard?
I had 7-3 for Estrada.
7-3 Cenisa Estrada. I had it 6-4. There's some people screaming, hey, maybe it could have been a draw if it wasn't on the Top Rank. Draw doesn't sound like it if you're saying 7-3.
I thought it was 7-3. I had a couple swing rounds and everything, but I still scored a 7-3.
You had a couple swing rounds. Those couple swing rounds, like you said, Drew, that kind of like says, hey, maybe it could have been a draw. But I think the much better, cleaner, and effective boxing did come from Sinisa Estrada, who cemented herself now as the undisputed champion. What about Yokasta Valley? Everyone's talking today about, hey, Tszyu deserves a rematch. But does Yokasta Valley deserve a rematch at some point in her career with Sinisa Estrada?
I don't think so, but Denise says she's moving up.
Who's moving up? Who said that?
Denise Estrada says she's moving up.
Well, she's already fought at that weight class, Drew. What is the weight class above that? 105, 108?
108, 112.
Because 112 is the newly crowned champion that I just put in the interview, is the sister of Sebastian Fundora, Gabriela Fundora. She's got a title at 112.
Yeah, I think she's moving up to 112.
That would be very, very interesting. Estrada versus Raleigh. Nah, I don't think so. Well, who knows, right? A lot of people calling for the demise of Raleigh, Rolando Romero. Guys, by the way, Raleigh was the only fighter that escaped me once again from an interview on Thursday when they did the press conferences. He managed to escape the shoe shine. And yet I heard that Friday night, Drew, he was at the MGM Grand up until like at least midnight, taking pictures with people and just walking around the casino. Maybe he should have been getting a good night's rest, you think? Maybe he shouldn't have been at the MGM at midnight the night before your fight. So I'll tell you one thing about Pitbull Cruz. We saw him on Thursday at the press conferences, leaving and whatnot. That dude was focused already. That dude was incredibly focused. And even who impressed me more so, who's a no-nonsense type guy, is Tszyu. You could see you guys can go back out there and go see the interview that D-Style did moments after I talked to Fundora. Completely different personality types. Now, when I hear that Tszyu went to military school, that his father, the great Costa Tszyu, sent him to military school, I could see how that personality and that dedication to the sport and just his whole attitude about everything. I could see that, that, okay, he went to military school, Drew. And Fundora is just the happiest, go-luckiest, most amiable guy. Very different personalities, obviously. And we'll get to that big fight afterwards and my thoughts on what transpired, Drew. But as far as Sinisa Estrada moving up, does that mean Yokasta Valley's got a chance once she relinquishes these belts to regain her titles?
I would think she does. Like, she didn't lose, like crazy, or get knocked out. So I would think that she will at least get a chance to regain her belts.
Absolutely. SB says it was a great boxing weekend and very exciting. My prediction was correct. Pitbull shut down Big Mouth Raleigh. And I got to tell you guys, I was saying this on D-Style's show just a little while earlier, Drew. I am surprised that the two biggest stars emerging in the Las Vegas scene in boxing for Mexican fan bases are William El Camarón Cepeda, who I saw at Cosmopolitan bring at least 100 family members of his own and headlining the card and have a large Mexican fan base at that Cosmopolitan card, and Pitbull Cruz. Lots of people came to see Pitbull Cruz. Very surprising to me, Drew, that these guys are the ones bringing the big fan base. And I'm going to pitch this fight to you guys later because I think that Top Rank and PBC are going to be missing a big opportunity if they don't start thinking about matching up 135-pound contender William El Camarón Cepeda and Pitbull Cruz, who just moved up to 140. I mean, the guy was just fighting at 135. You guys are missing a tremendous super Mexican super fight if you don't start thinking about matching up these two guys in their prime. Don't sleep on it, Top Rank. If anybody has a way for Top Rank to listen to this, to the matchmakers.
Isn't Cepeda Golden Boy?
William Cepeda's with Golden Boy. Absolutely. Yep.
And Tank's with PBC.
Yeah. He's fighting on DAZN. And correct, Drew. Doesn't mean big fights like this can't happen. Now, William Cepeda is potentially in line to fight either Lomachenko or Shakur Stevenson. But I think if the opportunity arose, like like Pitbull Cruz moving up to 140 for that WBA title, that William El Camarón Cepeda should be considering a fight with his fellow countrymen in a super Mexican fight. I mean, the type of fight that when we talk about Barreras and Morales, these classic trilogies, this is a fight that you guys cannot sleep on. You guys got to recognize the star power that is emerging from Pitbull Cruz. And I'm telling you, you guys felt it. It was palpable. If you watch the crowd when he won that title, how many people were there Saturday night in support of Pitbull Cruz? How many people were just here in support of Mexican fighter William El Camarón Cepeda at the Cosmopolitan? Don't sleep on it, guys. All right, 130-pound fighter Oscar Valdez, Drew. I think I counted him out, man. I've seen him, lose to Shakur, get, slapped around silly by Shakur. I've seen him in his height of his career at the Cosmopolitan. People just kind of counting him out. But, man, did he deliver an incredible performance on Friday night. Tears overcome with emotion, Oscar Valdez beating a tough Liam Wilson. Did you know, Drew, that Tim Tszyu's manager, they literally on Friday morning after the weigh-in, or not even after the weigh-in public was at 1 o'clock, they got on a private jet so they could just get to Arizona because they had to be in the ring for Liam Wilson. A tough weekend for that team, No Limit Boxing, unfortunately, how it unraveled. A tough weekend for them. They had to get out there quick, Drew. And this Liam Wilson, man, he looked like the guy who put down Navarrete early. He looked like a very big 130-pound fighter, tough come-forward fighter. But Oscar Valdez, with all that experience being a 2-division world champion, managed to pull out all the tricks that he had in his belt, hurt him, and then capitalize on hurting Liam Wilson and finishing him. And that was impressive to me, guys. I thought it was impressive. The fight doctor says, I'd like to see Cruz versus Teofimo. or he spelled it differently. Yeah, who wouldn't want to see that, Drew? But, Drew, Oscar Valdez, man, at 130 pounds.
Is food to Vashaki Foster.
Really? Because Vashaki Foster has been in some tough fights, tougher than necessary, especially recently that Cancun fight that I can't get out of my memory that produced round of the year. It is a good fight.
Way forward, Oshaki Foster, he's food to those two.
Is it the age? Is it the high mileage?
I think he's been in too many wars already. And, I don't think that Valdez is going to be able to put up with another onslaught from a younger guy that's in their prime and everything, that's on top of their game. I don't think he's going to be able to take that fight, another fighter like that. He's the champion that everyone wants to fight now to take his belt off of him and put him out of his misery.
Yeah, Oscar Valdez right here beating the much larger opponent in Liam Wilson, a game opponent who now has come up short against two of the best Mexican fighters of this generation in that weight class. I'm talking about Navarrete and Oscar Valdez, a tough fighter, a tough guy. Drew, you think he's going to get a title shot, though, against Oshaki Foster? You see that as a possibility?
I can see a unification and everything. So, there's unification fights that can be made, and, the only thing with Bobby willing to make the fights, even though there's a good chance that his fighter loses. So, I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Sin City Syndicate says, if Pitbull spoke fluent English, his fights could be pay-per-view headliners. It's incredible. It's really taken me back how quickly Pitbull Cruz's star is rising. And most of it, I think, really has to come from the fact, Drew, that he almost beat Gervonta Tank Davis, and that even some casual fans, friends of mine that casually follow the sport of boxing, still to this day are like, oh, Pitbull Cruz, the guy that should have got the nod against Tank Davis. I got friends that just only watch the big fights, and they know who Pitbull Cruz is, and they were probably excited because they know who Raleigh is too. Casual boxing fans know who Loudmouth Raleigh is.
I think it would help him out a lot if he learned English.
It would most definitely helped broaden the appeal of Canelo Alvarez as the face of boxing, and most Mexican fighters who learn to speak English and be able to hold their own on their interviews. I think you guys are absolutely right about that. Well, what can I say about that ESPN card? I thought it was pretty good. Obviously, there was a lot of other younger talent that they're developing. Richard Torres comes away with another win. The card seemed to be a success again. Arizona showing themselves as emerging as one of the new fight capitals in the U.S. A very, very good market. And even a lot of people telling me that they're thinking about going to more Arizona cards. So shout out to Arizona and ESPN for putting on a good show. Now let's get to this PBC Prime card. Saludos to my homeboys on Teo Media. Obviously, guys, if you saw what I was up to, I was up there with D-Style. We were getting some of those pre-fight interviews, making our presence known. Shout out to everybody that I met out there, hustling and grinding out there. It's not easy work. And for the amount of views, I'm like, damn, I wish, guys, I see people on YouTube with the same content I'm delivering getting 10,000, 20,000, 40,000. Hook me up. Drop a comment, drop a like on those videos so they can get out to more people, because I'm out there doing the same work. And to be honest, I do need work on my interview skills, Drew. It's not like I'm a master of my craft. I'm not a professional journalist. And that being said, Drew, I want to tell you, shout out to I met somebody from the Ring magazine that used to write for the Ring magazine, and shout out to them. You know who you are. They recommended a book to me that I'm going to pick up. And hopefully this book, they told me, is going to make me a master interviewer. So I want to thank that person that I met this weekend. I'm going to pick up that book, and hopefully you guys are going to see my interview skills improve.
Dave's going to lay on his little chair like a psychiatrist and read that book with the glasses on like this.
The only interview I'm going to do like that is if I get a chance to finally talk to Raleigh in an extended, lengthy interview, because, man, do I got questions for that guy, and they have nothing to do with Easter Sunday.
That dude needs a lot of fucking help.
Oh, man. Let's start with Brian Mendoza. Brian Mendoza, one of the other nicest fighters I've met here in the Las Vegas scene, who was hanging out with Mario Barrios at the Cosmopolitan just a few weeks ago. I run into them, and I had known from D-Style that he was helping Tszyu prepare as one of his key sparring partners. But what I didn't know is that he was actually on retainer, Drew, as what they call a stand-in fighter. I didn't know that. You had to listen closely to the PBC broadcast to know that he was actually training as to be a standby in case somebody got hurt. And somebody definitely did get hurt, and that was Keith Thurman. Obviously, they're not going to put in Brian Mendoza, who just lost in Australia to Tszyu. They're not putting him in the main event, but they ended up shuffling Fundora and Bohacek. Bohacek, a guy with a 5 KO win streak coming into that fight. They shuffle the card around, and all of a sudden, you produce a magical event this past Saturday on PBC, the debut on Prime, on Amazon Prime. They couldn't get any better performances from the people on the main event, including, and you know what, and shout out to Brian, who's actually, in my opinion, he should have been on the main event with Bohacek, because Bohacek is a force to be reckoned with. The Ukrainian fighter, Drew, I had only watched him fight one time on Ring City, USA, something that failed, that promotional company failed like 3 years ago. And was it Brandon Adams, the guy that comes in with the Ninja Turtles? This is a kind of a fringe 154-pound contender. Knocks him out. I'm like, okay, he's Ukrainian, Bohacek, big deal. There's nothing special about the guy. Completely wrong. I've not been keeping up on his 5 KO win streak, Drew. And I know that Brian Mendoza saw tape on that, because he told me he saw tape on that. But I don't know if they knew much else about the insane pressure that this guy was going to be. I thought I was watching Gennady Golovkin.
I picked him to win.
You picked him to win.
Yeah.
Not me. I'm blinded by the homie. Blinded by the homie
Blinded
factor.
by the homie, but I wasn't. Told you motherfucker was going to win.
I was not keeping up on this Bohacek. I will admit, Drew, I was not keeping up on that 5 KO win streak, man. Bohacek with Manny Robles training in California. absolutely deserved to have that place in his rankings, in the rankings, Drew. He deserved to be fighting Fundora. And I think, call me crazy, but I think that Bohacek would have also likely have beaten Fundora unless maybe he was cut on the top of his head too as well. I think that guy, Bohacek, probably would have beat Fundora.
I probably would have picked Bohacek to beat Fundora.
But that fight didn't happen. That wasn't going to happen, so we never got a chance to pick it. I mean, there's a lot of shit in that main event that happened that changed the trajectory of the fight.
But I'm going to say this right now, and I got to say, hashtag no excuses. No excuses.
Now,
Cuts happen in this sport.
Oh,
and
cool.
I think
Everything happens. Boxing isn't fair. The business of boxing isn't fair. And we'll get to that main event, Drew, because I got a lot of mixed feelings about that main event. And I want to thank everybody now. I see everybody coming in. I see the Fight Doctor. Shout out to you, Santiago Media. Veronica just joined us. Shout out to everybody up in here. SB, thank you guys for joining us. The phone line is open if you guys want to talk about this. Let's talk about the humbling of Raleigh Rolando Romero, a fixture here in the Vegas scene. He cracks me up. Santiago Media was there. Santiago was with me in Vegas at the Virgin when we saw Raleigh. An odd fellow. Essentially an odd fellow. I mean, there's a look in Raleigh's eyes when he walks around the casino. It's like he can't believe he's famous. So damn, am I right? He can't believe he's famous. It's like an it's like watching a guy have a out of body experience. You see the guy walking and he's like, damn, all these people want to take pictures with me. All these people want to ask me a question. And then he just freezes, and it's like he just freezes people out. He's a very odd fellow, in my opinion. Very funny at the same time. He calls himself the best shit talker in the business of boxing. He shit talked himself into that Gervonta Tank Davis fight. But honestly, he did quite well in that Tank Davis fight up until the 6th round. This was a complete trash performance. Unfortunately, it's associated with the brilliant Cuban boxing coach Ismael Salas, who now has taken him on as a client. I saw some of that pre-workout stuff he was doing. Oh, he's learning new stuff with Coach Ismael Salas. No, dude, he didn't learn anything. You just basically are going to revert back to your raw instinct. And that is what we saw, Drew. He was on shaky legs. Round 1, he got rocked in round 1.
Look at it like this. He's like this. Who's going to win this fight? I am. Why? Because I hit harder, and he gets hit a lot. What fucking kind of shit was that? The motherfucker can't fight, period.
And
I don't think Roy Romero can fight, period.
And interesting enough, the Fight Doctor says, I didn't give Romero a single round. There is a judge that gave Raleigh Romero, Raleigh Romero was winning the fight on one judge's scorecard. Was winning the fight. Because, Drew, I predicted, I said that if the fight went the distance, they were going to find a way to score it for Raleigh, to keep that gravy train going so they could pass off. Listen, that WBA title, they're trying to get it to somebody else eventually. They're trying to get it to a bigger name. They got it to Pitbull Cruz, and that's going to work out in their favor anyways, right? Because Pitbull Cruz is signed to PBC.
But you know what? The main reason why they did that, he was going to go and fight Lion. It's like, no. They got to take less money to go fight Isaac because he's going to lose the Lion. Why lose it to one of their guys? So they figured, hey, he's going to lose it. I think he'll beat Isaac. I think Isaac will beat him. Let's fucking, let's fucking give him the fucking belt. Let's give Isaac the belt. It's just fucking. Raw is a fucking idiot. And PBC, when a fighter is going to learn that Heyman does not benefit the fighter at all. It just benefits them.
Yeah, and now Pitbull Cruz finds himself amongst the elite of the 140-pound division. Just a guy who was at 135 pounds yesterday. A fighter that, in my opinion, basically has the stature of at most maybe a super featherweight, but he's now the 140-pound WBA champion, rightfully earned it, rightfully puts him in conversation with the likes of Subriel Matias, Teofimo Lopez, and of course Devin Haney, who I think, straight up, Devin Haney outboxes Pitbull Cruz easily, guys. Let's not bullshit that one. But we could potentially have some super exciting matchups should, Teofimo Lopez want to take on that challenge of a Pitbull Cruz. Or if Sabriel Matias, the Puerto Rican star, decides he wants to bang it out with one of the best Mexican fighters that we have out there at the moment, and that's Pitbull Cruz. I think it's a great fight. Either of those fights are great. But also we got that Ryan Garcia effect. How well does Ryan Garcia do in just a few weeks? Does Ryan Garcia pull off an upset in the current state he's at? I don't think anybody thinks he's going to pull off an upset against Devin Haney, but should he? Wow. All of a sudden you got a unification against somebody he had been trying to make a fight with for over 2 years that has failed to materialize in Pitbull Cruz. I think Ryan Garcia is looking at the landscape and saying, I do lose this fight with Haney, but I still make a good impression on the boxing public. Even losing that title opportunity, can I finagle my way as the big name that I am into a fight with Pitbull Cruz at PBC? Hey, shout out to our new person in the chat, Alonzo Amazing. Thank you, Chicano Prophet, for bringing them on board. Sin City Syndicate. Yes, exactly. There should be 200 people in this chat. I want to be trying doing everything I can to make that a reality, as Skype is doing something crazy to Drew. If you guys want to call in, don't forget, the phone line's open, 702-710-3627. Let me know who you guys think Pitbull Cruz should be fighting. He's obviously now the WBA champion. He can elect to make a mandatory defense. He can go straight into a big money fight on PBC. His star power is rising. Maybe we'll see him on the Canelo Alvarez undercard in September. I mean, he's got plenty of time to rest, heal. Obviously, May is not doable. It's not something you want to push him to. But we could potentially see Pitbull Cruz on the undercard of a Canelo Alvarez September card. The way it looks is that Canelo is going to be hanging around with PBC well into the September Mexican Independence Day weekend fight. And I think Pitbull Cruz would be a far better fight than a good friend of our show, Jesus Ramos Jr. out of Arizona, that failed to impress, given the opportunity to be the undercard co-main event of the Canelo Alvarez fight. And the reason why I'm bringing him up right now, guys, is I'm going to segue now into the Tszyu Sebastian Fundora fight, and one that I think if anybody out there in the YouTube boxing community this week has more insight to is obviously a friend of the show, D-Style Boxing, and me, who had a tremendous opportunity to talk to both fighters. D-Style was entrenched in the camp, basically, of Tszyu. Introduced me to the team doctor, introduced me to the manager, got a real good idea of what was going on in the mind of that camp. And everybody is discussing whether or not they failed Tszyu, Drew, whether or not his corner failed him. Because I'll tell you this, Drew, meeting Tszyu, he fucking told us, he said, I'm sorry I'm cussing, but he said, I'm a throwback fighter. I'm the return of the throwback fighter. And when he says throwback fighter, I think of his father, Costa Tszyu, the legendary Costa Tszyu that I grew up watching 20 years ago when I first got with my wife. We'd watch Costa Tszyu in the living room of our Italian grandparents on Friday Night Fights or Saturday on HBO. I mean, we watched Costa Tszyu. We watched Tszyu's father. You know, that was the throwback era he's talking about. He said, no pussy shit. None of this pussy shit that we see today. And that's absolutely what they showed us on Saturday night. Both of those guys, those true warriors. Sebastian Fundora saying, I'll take this opportunity. Yeah, I just got knocked out, but I'll take that world title fight. Who is going to turn that down? Like he said, he had been training for an orthodox fighter. But for Tszyu to take that guy on, I said this fight would be dangerous. I said the fight was more dangerous. We know this fight was more dangerous than Thurman. Come on, that was a sham of a fight. But he accepted it. He accepted that. First off, he accepts the challenge. Right?
Yeah. Like,
you picked Tszyu to win. You picked him to win by knockout.
Stop him at 10.
And I have to be completely honest. It looked like we were going to see that come to fruition. Because once again, Sebastian Fundora, as I'm watching round 1 and 2 with my wife, he starts to fight small. He starts to reduce his height. He gets clocked. He gets his nose broken. Guys, he faced adversity too. He had his nose shattered. The thing wouldn't stop bleeding. Blood was all up in his mouth. He busted his nose. It looked like it was going to be easy work for Tszyu until he ran himself into the elbow, that razor sharp elbow. Guys, you got to see Fundora in person. It's freakish. Freakish. You saw the video on my page, D-Style standing next to him. He literally looks like an NBA player. Incredible that someone shorter than me, Tszyu, says, fuck it, I'll fight him. I'll fight the guy. Amazing that Brian Mendoza, shout out to Brian, knocks out Sebastian Fundora in my favorite knockout of 2023. How'd he do that? Well, I think Tszyu was probably on the way to figuring that out himself until that elbow to the top of his scalp.
I gotta be straight here. Hashtag no excuses whatsoever.
Let's not make excuses. I'm not making excuses for anybody. I don't think they're exactly
happen in boxing all the time. And I think people are gonna bring up the excuses that, if the cut didn't happen and everything. Let's just look at it like this. And then you got Gabe Rosado saying it's an illegal move that he and like, dude, did you look at that, or you want to say, he got hit with an elbow? Did you literally did not look at the footage that Tim literally ran into his elbow? Not his fault. That's Tim's fault. But I look at it like this. I give him props for fighting the rest of the fight, and having the heart to fight. The dude's got a lot of heart. I give him props. But his team fucked him. His team did him wrong. I'm sorry, his team did him wrong. They did not do what was best for the fighter, and that was an awful cut man job. Because they're a different way. I know people that have worse cuts, and then the cut man was able to stop that cut to a minimum to get them to keep fighting. That guy did a really bad job and compromised his fighter.
So, Drew, it's interesting you say that. I'm sorry to cut you off, but in the post-fight press conference, our homegirl, Gail Falkenthal, there had been a question right before that, right before Gail got on the microphone, Drew. They asked him about that, and he said no comment. You guys all saw that. Go back and watch that post-fight press conference when they asked him if they thought that his corner had all the proper tools to combat that wicked cut. And it got very quiet. And he said, no comment. And you could see the frustration in Tszyu's eyes. You could see that he's ready to fire somebody. You could see that he felt betrayed. You could feel that he had some sort of feeling about his corner not doing the right thing and stopping what that was. Now, in the fight at PBC, during the fight when it was going, Drew, they asked, and they made it clear to the announcers, they got it under control. I think they even alluded to say they had the right medication to coagulate, to stop the bleeding, but they didn't.
All they were doing is kept putting Vaseline or that premium jelly on his head,
it was Vaseline. You're right. I didn't see. I was looking at the Q-tips. I'm like, where is that special liquid?
They put? Here's the issue, man. I didn't even see them put a Q-tip on his fucking head where that cuts at to apply pressure to it.
Did you guys see it? By the way, let me know in the chat if you saw any of that special medication that they claimed they had to stop the coagulation.
Nothing. They did the same shit for 11 fucking rounds.
And you could see the minute the bell rang that he'd get back up, it was already squirting blood. I mean,
yeah, and that's why at the end I'm like this, yo, you need to stop this fight. He's not able to see out of that. He's not able to have clear vision out of it. And I look at it, all of a sudden, Sebastian starts fighting tall, starts fighting smarter, using his gifts and everything.
Like he said he would. Fight Doctor says, hey, go ahead.
I got to say this. You got to be proud of him because he's finally realized he had to fight tall. He had to use his gifts. He stopped using the fucking jab in the first 2 rounds as a measuring tool and literally use it as a punch.
Right, guys. This brings back memories to me, guys. You guys know I'm from San Jose, California. Obviously, I grew up watching Robert the Ghost Guerrero, guys. And Robert the Ghost Guerrero had his homecoming. He had just won a title. And I didn't go back and jar my memory. I don't have the exact dates. I don't have the exact title. But Robert the Ghost Guerrero, Drew, was going to fight at the Shark Tank, which is the home of the San Jose Sharks. It was his homecoming fight. And he was going to fight a brilliant Thai boxer that was on a brutal KO streak, Drew. The guy was coming from Thailand. He was coming all the way to San Jose. And the San Jose Bay Area fans were going to finally see Robert the Ghost Guerrero fight in their hometown and take on a very dangerous opponent. I believe it was on HBO. The Thai fighter begins to get the best of Robert the Ghost Guerrero, and things aren't looking good. And it's very early, Drew. I'm talking round 3 or so. The Thai guy on my card is up, and Robert the Ghost Guerrero looks shell-shocked, dumb-shocked, like I didn't know this guy was going to be that good. And Robert the Ghost Guerrero ends up sustaining a horrific cut. And his father, maybe having the hindsight, maybe getting a feeling that this wasn't going to be his son's night. Because of that horrific cut, you know the drill, Drew. If it's under 4 rounds in a championship fight, depending on what state you're in, California included,
It's a no contest.
It's a no contest. And that's exactly what Robert the Ghost Guerrero's team did. They elected to go for the no contest. Drew, I think he would have lost his title that night the way it was looking. It looked like he was going to lose his title that night. But his dad, and a shout out to his dad and his team, they despite being in his hometown of San Jose, California, a fight that everybody was so excited to see, it was the headline event. They stopped the fight right there. And Robert the Ghost Guerrero ended up keeping his title, never rematching the Thai fighter, never giving that guy an opportunity again, maybe saying, you know what, I'm not going to fight this guy, but we'll just leave that as a no contest and move on. I have to ask you guys, Tszyu was up, battering Fundora in 2 rounds. When that cut happened, it was just round 3. The trajectory changed almost immediately to me. And I'm thinking, if you let it go past 4, it's a fucking draw. Yes, you keep your title, but it's a draw. Let it go more than that, you're in trouble. And they did let it go more than that. They had that one brief moment to say, I know it's sold out. I know it's a huge crowd. I know it's Las Vegas. I know this is our big splash in the U.S. to make a pay-per-view fight. Do I fault them? I got mixed feelings, guys. I don't know if I fault them. They said Tim is a throwback fighter. They said they're not going to be the pussy type shit we see from fighters today. Tim didn't want to stop fighting. The fans didn't want to see the fight stop.
Yeah, but
did they do the right thing?
You got to do, because here's the thing. The longer he fights and that blood's coming out, the more vulnerable he is, because what if he loses too much blood and he passes out due to loss of blood and everything? Like, that shit was gushing out blood, but I'll look at it like this. No excuses. Boxing, you get cut all the time in boxing. Unfortunately, it was that bad of a cut. And, you know, the other guy took advantage of it. And I thought Fundora boxed beautifully. And in my eyes, he actually fought the way he should have been fighting. And, like, I had it 8-4 Fundora, 116-112. I just did not. After the 3 rounds he won, Tim were clear ones, but I just did not think that he's won more than 4 rounds in this fight, Tim. And to me, I thought I was saying, you know, Tim's got to go for broke. Tim's got to be in there and just go for broke. Get inside and try to go for broke. And, you know, what can you say? Fundora was able to keep him at bay for mostly all that fight after that, because he stopped using the jab as a measuring tool and use it as a weapon, and it was very effective.
Chicano Prophet says this was a close fight, in my opinion. There was a judge that actually gave the fight to Tszyu. Now, I didn't think it was that close after, obviously, after the bleeding begun and just wouldn't stop. I didn't think it was close, but Tszyu never gave up. He never relented. He was always trying to land those big shots in between getting the blood out of his face. Make no doubt about it. I think that had this horrific cut not happened, we probably could have seen a completely different outcome. That's the way it was shaping up to be. But I can't fault Fundora for making the opportunity, rising to the occasion when that opportunity, he did exactly what he was supposed to do. And that's take advantage of the fact that his opponent couldn't see and use his gifts. Like we said, he finally is going to use that fight tall, use the jab. Didn't have enough power to knock him out or hurt him. But hey, a win is a win is a win. Now we find ourselves in this place where the 154-pound division, guys, has not one champion that's undefeated, Drew. It's fucked up. The entire division's kind of fucked because you got Jermell Charlo, who ballooned up to 168 and looked like garbage, had to give up 2 of those titles. Is he coming back? Is he in recess? 2 of those titles are still held by Jermell Charlo. He is not undefeated. He's lost to Tony Harrison. Tim Tszyu beat Tony Harrison. He also lost to Canelo. You got Tim Tszyu now with a loss. You have Brian Fundora being knocked out by, you have Fundora who was knocked out by Brian Mendoza viciously in 2023. Brian Mendoza has lost to 3 of the top fighters in that division. He's lost to Tim Tszyu, respectfully, in Australia. He's lost to Jesus Ramos Jr., who he told me he would love to fight and avenge that loss. And he came up short against a strong contender in Bohacek, who rightfully now deserves to be in first place. There isn't one guy in the mix here. Bohacek has been knocked out by Brandon Adams. There really isn't anybody at 154 who's unblemished except for Terrence Bud Crawford, who's never even fought at 154.
I look at it like this, while the Tim Tszyu fans on a plane or on a bus ride home and everything, we gotta discuss the other guys. Like, Tim Tszyu, they said that there is a rematch clause and he intends to take it, but Errol Spence tries to come in.
Right.
And there was a fight and everything. But the thing about it is, LB said Terrence Crawford's not fighting the winner because he's not with the PBC. So here's the thing. The WBO said if Tim Tszyu doesn't take that rematch, they're mandating Crawford versus Fundora. And
that's right. Okay, they've given him, before the fight happened, guys, the WBO said Terrence Crawford is going to elect him. We're going to give him the privilege of that. They have 5 days to negotiate in earnest, to begin negotiations with Terrence Bud Crawford to defend the WBO title. That means Fundora is going to have 5 days to begin a conversation with his management, with PBC. Now, if the fight doesn't materialize, the WBO, who's always favored Terrence Crawford, they're going to strip.
Goes to a post bid.
They're going to strip him.
It goes to a post bid.
Well, I hope so.
Here's the thing.
I hope so. And you know what? I would love to see the Saudis. I know Terrence Crawford is demanding a lot of money. At least 15 million. I'd love to see the Saudis step in.
Dave, here's the thing though. They're gonna talk Fundora into dropping that title, the PBC. Make sure Terrence Crawford does not get a chance to get titles. And both titles.
I think they strip him. I think you're right.
Money.
I think you're right. They're going to tell him to drop the WBO belt. Terrence Crawford is going to get to fight somebody. Terrence Crawford's going to get to fight somebody for that vacant WBO title. Who will it be, though?
I look at it like this. Sebastian, don't let these guys judge your career. You just won the biggest fight of your life. You're a unified champion. Don't let Al Heyman take away money off you. Don't take away fucking a belt off you because of not feeling you're gonna lose. They don't when are these fighters gonna realize that the PBC does not care for their well-being? It only cares for their brand. They're making the money. Like, when are they gonna realize that shit? When they're fucking taking a lesson like Wally in his state? Like, I just really want to know something. But like, I look at it like this, Sebastian, even if you're gonna lose this fight, show the people you're a legitimate champion, and let's show anybody you're willing to fight anybody and fight Terrence Crawford. Take the fight. It's probably you're gonna make more money fighting Terrence Crawford and everything. Plus, you're a champion.
I sure hope he doesn't talk. I sure hope. He said he wants to fight Terrence Crawford, but he's got Sam as his promoter, and obviously they want to get as much money and capitalize as much as they can. And in-house, they're going to pressure him. They brought in Errol Spence immediately. He traveled out of his way from Texas to get in the ring. And by the way, what's up with his new look, man? Are you guys feeling Terrence's new look?
Errol Spence does not give you any money. He's lost. He's been destroyed. What? They're going to look at it and say, how the fuck do we give this motherfucker a fight? And everything. By the way,
WBO, this is crazy. Josh Kelly is unknown to everybody. I mean, he's unknown to me, and he's ranked number 1. Number 2 is Erickson Lubin, a guy that, in my opinion, Terrence Bud Crawford would knock out and annihilate. Lubin lost to Jermell Charlo early in his career, was knocked out, I believe, in the first round. But then you get somebody very, very interesting, Drew. Ranked number 3. Now, the WBO can mandate, Josh Kelly to be obviously, that's easy work for Terrence Crawford. Lubin, easy work. Xander Zayas, ranked number 3 by the WBO. The WBO can essentially pick anyone from the top 5 to mix it up for a vacant title with Terrence Bud Crawford.
I don't think Xander's going to get picked unless the 2 other guys say no.
Xander Zayas arguably has a much better chance, even as a young fighter entering his prime, than a washed-up Erickson Lubin or an unknown Josh Kelly to the U.S. public. But I think it ends up being somebody like Josh Kelly that Terrence Crawford knocks out, that fights for basically very little money. And then Terrence Crawford gets his strap at 154. I really don't hope that they force Sebastian Fundora to relinquish his title so they can match him up against a washed-up Errol Spence. Errol Spence, see, this is the mistake PBC made going into this card originally, was let's bring out Keith Thurman, a washed-up fighter who was special 5 years ago, or maybe even 10 years ago, you could say. Listen, Errol Spence hasn't been special in years. Oh, so they bring him back up. Oh, he's got name recognition. Big mistake. Big fucking mistake.
They don't get your money. You just got knocked out. One-sided knockout loss. It doesn't give you the money that you want now.
But they want to bring him out, which is the exact same thing you see. Let's bring out some name recognition against a younger fighter that does not produce a great fight. What we saw this weekend was a fight of the year contender between 2 fighters in their prime. One guy coming off a knockout loss with a lot. Up until he got knocked out by Brian Mendoza, Fundora was the boogeyman. Nobody wanted to fight him. Everybody saw what Erickson Lubin's face looked like. Erickson Lubin's face was completely rearranged after fighting Fundora. If you watch Fundora fights, people usually get their face is pretty effed up. And that's exactly what happened to Tszyu. It was not easy work to be in the ring with that monster, the towering inferno. By the way, Brian Mendoza's face also got rearranged, man. Shout out to Brian for being such a warrior. Did you guys see? To me, it looked like he maybe broke his orbital bone against Bohachuk. Drew, did you see this? That's the kind of swelling the last time I've seen swelling like that was when Paulie Malignaggi's orbital bone was shattered by Miguel Cotto. And he fought valiantly up until, the very end of this fight and came on strong, in my opinion, 11-12. A lot of brave warriors in this division. 154 is going to be a division to watch all freaking year. Fight Doctor says Thurman hasn't been the same since that first surgery, and he's not going to be the same after that bicep tear. To be honest, he's probably done. It's probably time for him to hang him up. And for Tszyu, I do feel a little bit bad for him, especially because I think I'm in agreement that in hindsight, maybe his corner could have stopped the fight. And they could have walked away from this and said, hey, let's run it back. Let's run it back. Let's let this thing heal. We apologize to all the fans that came to see us. Let's run it back. Let's get this thing healed. And I agree to fight the Towering Inferno again. It's too late for all that. Now they go back to Australia and PBC is going to play favorites. It's almost like they brought him here. Things didn't materialize the way they probably intended, making him a star. But in the eyes of the boxing public that watched this fight and sports fans that watched this fight, they know what Tszyu is about. He proved himself to be that throwback fighter, that Arturo Gatti type fighter. He's a real deal. He's going to have to start all over again. I firmly believe Tszyu will probably snatch one of these titles again, 154-pound title. I even think Tszyu, Drew, call me crazy, but that 160-pound division is so weak that I think he could move up and challenge 40-year-old Erislandy Lara.
I think he has a great opportunity to win at 160. I think he has a good chance against Janabek. So,
that would be a tremendous fight. Either one of those fights, totally different style fighter, but listen, he could write his own path and say, much like David Benavidez, I'm not going to stick around and wait for you guys to play politics and business with me. If the opportunity arises, I can move up to 160. It's only 6 pounds, and I'll fight somebody like 40-year-old Erislandy Lara. Shout out to him for an amazing KO finish. I feel bad for Nonito Donaires fighter, but I never thought much of Zarafa. But hey, he's a 40-pound WBC. Is he the WBC middleweight champion? Crazy, right? Crazy. Absolutely crazy.
I got to ask the question of Fight Doctor. Do you know who the top guys are at 160? Before you say that, who are the top 5 guys at 160 right now, Fight Doctor? Who are the champions at 160 right now? Off the top of your head, can you tell me? I'm waiting.
You're waiting for him to put it in the chat? Well, one of the guys is unified. That's the interesting thing. One of these guys is unified. And now that you pointed it out, Drew, wow. Janabek versus Tszyu would be a fantastic fight. Obviously, Erislandy Lara has the WBA title. My bad. He has the WBA title. And that seems pretty easy to make in-house over at PBC. If that's a route he wanted to go, Jermell Charlo and Carlos Adames. I'm not sure if Jermell Charlo still has that title or if they've elevated Carlos Adames, who is already talking about moving up to 168 too. And Jermell Charlo obviously looks like he's also moving up to 168. That WBC title might be pretty vacant pretty soon. I'm reading Elijah Garcia is already ranked number 4 by the WBC, and I ran into the grandfather, Drew. D-Style and I were leaving the MGM on Thursday. We run into the grandfather of Elijah Garcia, WBC prospect. He was scheduled to fight on that free portion of the card, and he had to pull out like very last minute. It was announced he had to pull out. So I stopped and I talked to the grandpa, sweetheart of a man, and he tells us, you know what? We came to the decision as a team, son, mijo, you're not healthy. Let's not risk this. Let's not go in afterwards, potentially lose a fight against a tough, dangerous opponent and say we weren't 100%. I think they did the right thing. That's what's crazy, Drew. He was supposed to be on that card. I think his team did the right thing. That's why we're arguing about whether or not Tszyu's team did the right thing. You know what I mean? They could have walked away still as champions in a no contest. Maybe not the best fan-friendliest thing to do, but in hindsight, Elijah Garcia's team and his parents and his grandpa said, no, it's not a good idea, mijo. Let's pull out of this fight. And already, nobody gives a shit. Nobody gives a shit Elijah Garcia wasn't on the fight card. We'll see him next time.
Now, Fight Doctor, you gave me 2 guys. I need the top. I need to know how many. I need an answer before we end this show. How many of the top 10 of 160 you heard of? That includes all the other champions. So keep doing your research while we're talking, okay, buddy? So I'm gonna look at it like this. It's good on their part to take him out and do right by him. I think Tim Tszyu's corner fucked him, but it's no excuse. He got cut. Cuts happen in boxing. Congratulations to Sebastian Fundora. He's a unified champion now. Good for him. Be a world champion. Don't listen to your promoter. You tell your promoter, I want to fight the best. Get me Terrence Crawford. I'm not fighting Errol Spence. He's washed. He already got his ass kicked. Why the fuck am I going to fight him? He's moved up to 154. At least let me fight the former undisputed welterweight champion that's moving up. Or let me fight Tim Tszyu again. It wasn't a few. It proves to everybody that I can beat him again. And that's it. Like, I don't get why it's all about, like, it turned out to be a better fight. Yes, it did. But if people are bragging about it, why the fuck did they make the fight in the first place?
All right, Drew, we got 312 on the phone line.
312. Never heard of him.
Yo, Fight Doctor's in the house on Rick James status as always.
Fight
Good
Doctor.
evening,
James.
Hey, thanks for calling in. First time on the show. Thank you so much for joining us, man. I see you cooking with Drew. What you got to say to Drew Evil?
Hold on, Fight Doctor.
Okay, so
Before you
Yes,
start,
sir.
not to cut you off, when you bring up Rick James, I need you to say I'm Rick James, bitch, next time. You gotta do that.
And I'm Rick James,
You gotta say Rick James, bitch. You got to.
I'm Rick James, biatch.
Thank you.
My
Go
man.
ahead, Fight Doctor.
So look, the top guys at 160, according to my math, are Adamez and Janibek. And I think they both beat the brakes off of Tim Tszyu. Now, the rest of the division, 160 right now is pretty much a wasteland outside of the top two guys. And honestly, if Tim Tszyu moves up to 160, if he doesn't fight Adamez or if he doesn't fight Janibek, then it's essentially a waste. Because, again, the division is a wasteland. And those are the only two guys that matter. And as far as I'm concerned, Tim Tszyu is kind of boxed in now. Because I think he loses the rematch to Fundora, he loses to Bud, and if he goes to 160, the two top guys there knock him out. So I think, it's been one for Tszyu.
Okay. So don't you think if he moves up to 160 and the other two titleists, one is from Italy and the other one's Eastern European that not a lot of people's ever heard from, don't you think if he were to take one of those titles and fight Janibek, because Adonis is technically inter-champion, so it's technically Charlo still. That's the main champion. Don't you think the fight would be more meaningful, be a better fight because it's a unification fight?
So, personally, I don't give a lot of credibility to the sanctioning organizations, right? So, I only want to see the best fight the best. He can go up to 160 and pick up a title from one of the lesser champions, but at the end of the day, it's not about what title you hold. It's about who did you beat. And if you beat one of these lesser champions, then it's just that. You beat a lesser champion, but you haven't beat the best guy or the second best guy in the division. And right now, that's Janibek and Adamez. Charlo is out the picture. I don't think he's coming back to 160.
I don't either.
If you go up to the division, yeah, right. So if you go up to the division, you have to beat one of those guys. And as far as I'm concerned, Janibek is really the man to beat at 160 right now.
Well, he
So
does
if you
hold
go
the
there, that's who you got to see.
He holds the IPF and WBO title. But Drew, what this reminds me of is Miguel Cotto's strategic move at the end of his career when he took on Sergio Maravilla Martinez, who was approaching 40 years old. Erislandy Lara literally is 40 years old. Now, Sergio Martinez's legs were shot. Everybody knew that. He even knew that. Going into that fight, he had that surgically repaired legs. But I could envision Tim Tszyu thinking about taking on an aging WBA champion in Erislandy Lara. That's the route I would go. I'm just saying, that's the route I would go.
I'll be honest with you.
And that would, I honestly think that would make the most business sense because
It would
you
make
get
the
a
most-
Payday.
It would. I don't know. I
Right,
don't
you
know
get a
if it would.
payday. It's a winnable fight because Lara is up there in age. He's what, 41?
Yeah, he's approaching
So it's a
41 this
winnable
week.
fight.
Mhm.
Right, and you get a title. You get a title and a big fight in your next fight. A
Yeah.
I'll be
cash out fight.
honest. I'll be honest. I don't like Janabek. His resume isn't too shabby when it looks. If you look at the way he was stopping people and everything, but he looked bad against somebody, but he still got that win. But his resume isn't really. Oh, he has an awesome resume. It's not nothing to really talk like words all over the world that he has a great resume and everything. He has an okay resume. I would think that Tszyu has a better resume slightly and everything, but I look at it like this. I think that I would pick Tszyu to beat Carlos Adonis slightly right now. I really think that the Janabek Tszyu fight could be a 50-50 fight as of right now. Laura, I think I will do it. I will probably do a 60-40 in favor of Tszyu, but I still think that Laura still has a lot to offer with experience and everything, and he still has power a little bit that can keep fighters honest. So, he is 40, but the dude still has power, and this dude can still box his ass off for 40. And I think people are miscalculating this, counting him out and everything. And this division is beneficial to him for the way it's being right now. That it's really a shit show division because a lot of the top 10 guys, a lot of people's never heard of them. They never heard of this guy from Italy that has the IBF title and everything. And we don't know the situation if Jamar Charles is going to give that belt up eventually, or they're going to strip him. Like, to me, I think they should have just gave Carlos Adonis the belt, the main belt, and put Jamar in recess about it. But if you look at it like this right now, I think Terence Crawford stops Tim Tszyu. I think Terence Crawford stops Fundora. Because here's the thing. Tim has okay footwork. But when you have footwork like Terence Crawford and you're fighting a guy like Fundora who has like average footwork also and everything, and Terence can get inside Fundora and get hits on him, that's going to be punishment right there. Now, I believe in the rematch. Tim Tszyu wins that rematch. But because I really think that the one thing he's going to learn from what happened, he's going to be smarter. I think his people got to get better at doing their jobs with him. Errol Spence is food to anybody now. He's waiting for someone to put him out of his misery. I'm sorry. It just is. And I don't like the way he did Derek James.
Oh yeah, I did hear about that. You guys go all read what he did to Derek James, who's training. You know, hey, Derek James seems like a kind of a sweetheart of a guy to be dealing with all the nonsense that Ryan Garcia brings to camp. I mean, hey, the guy deserves to get paid. That being said, I think we ran astray speculating on Tim Tszyu moving up to 160. Obviously, he's going to stick around the division this year and see if he can regain his title, get an opportunity, a rematch opportunity with Fundora. That was not agreed upon in a written contract. That was a big mistake. They had a verbal agreement for a rematch that means absolutely nothing in the sport of boxing. So he has to sit out and wait to see what Fundora's moves are. He'll potentially fight at home in Australia, Drew, but I don't think he's moving up to 160. I would consider it. I'm just saying, if I was a management team, I'm just saying, hey, if things don't pan out, let's make a move.
And you know what? If they try to fuck with Crawford 154, I would have ruled out Crawford going to 160. I think he beats them all at 160.
Very possible. That's Crawford finds himself, like you said, Drew, he finds himself in a shit position. This week is going to say a lot. We'll probably have to come back on the air because they've got 5 days to begin this earnest conversation about allowing Bud Crawford to fight for that WBO title.
It's just, but the one that we're counting out, the wild card, I thought he won the fight. I thought he got robbed and everything. And the wild card of this division is Jesus Ramos. And
it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. Like Tim Tszyu, what happened to Tim Tszyu, it's unfortunate. Shit happens. What happened to Jesus Ramos? You got put on the co-main as Canelo Alvarez's co-main event. You took your foot off the gas. You took for granted that you thought you and your team, you thought that you had it in the bag by outboxing Lubin. You didn't bring the fight to Lubin when you could have hurt him. And you weren't rewarded for it. And that's just the way the awful sport of boxing that we love so much can sometimes they could just betray you. It could be like, hey, these judges didn't see you winning. I saw you winning it. The judges didn't.
He didn't do shit either with Lubin. You know,
that fight sucked.
That's what I didn't understand. I'm like, I can understand he was being more of an aggressor if he was, but he wasn't doing shit.
He wasn't landing either much, in my opinion.
So, like if you look at it, that was a terrible decision. And I think they, if anything, I look at it like this. Chicano is right. I think Ramos beats everybody at 154 except Crawford.
You know what? Chicano brings up an interesting, but all of you guys, I'm curious if Jesus Ramos, now that somebody like Tim Tszyu is no longer undefeated, it doesn't have a title, if PBC is going to try to match up somebody like Jesus Ramos in a fight where he has to win. And not only does he have to win, he has to beat a former world champion and a very dangerous opponent, somebody that probably should still be the world title holder at that weight class. I wouldn't be surprised if we see something like that materialize where they're like, hey, you two got to fight. You two, both of you got to fight each other.
I have a feeling we're going to see Lubin versus Tszyu in Australia. But
he needs to pay. He didn't agree to it at first, but now he's probably like, I need the money. And I think you're right, Drew. I think the next fight that makes sense is to bring back Tim Tszyu back to Australia and begin rebuilding his confidence and make sure he's healthy.
But
okay, on that note, can I
just
chime in real quick on that note?
Yes.
If I were handling Tim Tszyu, I think what I would do is step aside on the Fundora rematch. Let Fundora get beat by Bud Crawford, and maybe fight a guy like Virgil Ortiz.
Oh shit, we forgot all about how I forget about Virgil.
I would actually favor Sim that fight.
That's a brilliant fight. Really, a brilliant fight.
I think that's a winnable fight for Tim Tszyu. A good, exciting fight that would restore his confidence because I think he would stop Ortiz. And then he could see the winner of Fundora and Bud Crawford, which most likely is going to be Bud Crawford, for a big money fight.
You know, that's crazy. I'm looking at the rankings and I don't see. How do I not see Virgil Ortiz? He's ranked number 6 by the WBC.
But you know what?
Yeah, I totally forgot. He's fighting in Fresno. But I'm not happy, by the way, guys. We'll be covering that. I'm not happy about his choice of opponent. After the opponent I saw him fight at the Virgin in his second performance at 154. I'm not happy about who they're fighting in Fresno. But hey, Fight Doctor, thanks a lot for calling the show, man. Appreciate your phone call and being in the chat. That's Fight Doctor, everybody. I'm going to start to wrap up the show. Thanks, homie.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Drew, I wanted to cover one last thing. Shout out to everybody for enjoying the show. Thank you, guys. Don't forget to hit that like button so it can get across to more people on YouTube. I'm even considering doing a vertical stream where we just talk shit vertically, Drew, for like half an hour. Because apparently, if you do vertical, YouTube hooks you up with even more viewers. But I'm not saying we would do the shoe shine on Monday night in vertical, but hey, we might have to do a show here or two vertical. Drew, there's one more thing I want to talk to you about. Zurdo Ramirez becomes the first Mexican to become a cruiserweight champion. There's been a Mexican heavyweight champion. There's never been a cruiserweight champion. He jumps from 168 to cruiserweight. I saw him fight Joe Smith Jr. Our friend Carol was here in the show earlier in the chat. Carol, we all saw him fight Joe Smith Jr. Drew, this is what he looked like on, what is it, Friday night? He's fighting an Armenian fighter, a guy who hadn't fought in a year for a vacant title. Kind of soft around the belly as cruiserweight. Nothing, but he's filling out. From 168 to cruiserweight in his second performance. It don't matter. He is now the WBA cruiserweight champion.
But he won a title, but I don't think he beats the top guys at cruiserweight. I don't think he beats Okatara, and I don't think he beats Brady's. I think Okoli might give him problems.
Right.
If Okoli will fight for a change. I just don't think that some of these guys, I don't think he beats none of these top guys. This is a this is a division that is right under heavyweight, and some possess heavyweight power. So, Zotto is a guy that is still working his way to cruiserweight level, but I just don't think that if you put him in there with Okatala or Brady's, I think they both stop him.
Yeah, Brady's is a fantastic older champion. Obviously, he's going to be having that rematch with Opatai, and the Saudi Arabians are going to host that event. But let's say he just carves his own path. Drew, I ran into Tristan Kulahat, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. Tristan, a Golden Boy fighter. Man, that kid is a sweetheart too. He wants a shot at Zurdo Ramirez, and he's a Golden Boy contender as well. Somebody I think who's like, I think he was like 6'2". Man, he says he wants a shot. Now he's got the title, Drew. But what about this? They talking about Raleigh. Raleigh, why don't you just, Ryan Garcia says, why don't you just give it up and join Misfits Boxing? Because that's the straight up level you're at. Just join the Misfits DAZN and fight some of those guys. And I think you'd be lucky to beat some, I think he said Dean the Great, which I've seen fight. The guy has an amateur pedigree. They talk about you should go fight Misfits. Should Zurdo Ramirez entertain a Jake Paul fight?
I don't know, but Ryan shouldn't be talking about that, because he should be going to Misfits, because he's not that much better.
Hey, we don't even know what performance he's going to turn in April 20th, but for him to allude, hey, maybe you should go to Misfits and fight some of those guys. Now, I ain't saying Zurdo Ramirez is a trash fighter. He's now a 2-division world champion. But with everybody giving credence to Jake Paul as being a legitimate fighter, and now he's going to do this whatever event on Netflix. I mean, hey, let's talk about a big payday. Can you beat up Zurdo? Will you beat up Jake Paul for us for the raza? Will you just take one for the team and just fight him? Just give him that title shot opportunity so we could see him on his ass.
I don't think, here's the thing. I don't think that there's a chance that this Mike Tyson fight doesn't happen.
Oh, it's happening.
They already bringing it up. If he doesn't pass a lot of tests, that can't stop the fight from happening.
8 16-ounce gloves. I saw the rules. We're going to bring that up later on in another episode of the Shoe Shine. That fight's going to happen. Netflix is going to make sure that circus thing happens. Just saying, when you get bored, Zurdo Ramirez, if you still have that belt, I'd love to see you take one for the team and knock out Jake Paul, man. That's all I got for tonight, Drew. Any final words, Drew?
Oh, man. A long fucking week.
Notice we didn't talk about any upcoming fights. I didn't look at the schedule. It's actually, it's in Vegas. Hey, shout out to Carol, who's still here. Her and Fonzie, I know, are going to Fontainebleau, I believe, because Fontainebleau DAZN is going to be doing the first boxing event at the Fontainebleau Casino in Las Vegas. The newest, shiniest thing on the strip. It's beautiful, I hear. And what is it? Post Malone is he's been the big first act at that theater. I can't imagine how nice it's going to be. I got to see if we're still going to go. It's this Saturday. I believe it features Mark Castro out of Fresno. Diego Pacheco, a super middleweight contender that I really like. He'll be performing there on Saturday. And maybe we'll get a show later on this week and talk about that card, guys. But for now, appreciate everybody. God bless. We'll see you next Monday night on the Shoe Shine. Stay tuned. We might do another second show this week. Drew, peace out, homie.